We can start. Great.
Just send a message.
Of course. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to Media Central. Next Sunday, in a couple of days, Turkey will hold two crucial elections: one for the presidency and one for the Turkish parliament. It will be one vote for these two elections. Both of them were scheduled 16 months earlier than the normal voting under the prolonged state of emergency. And what's interesting about it is some polls show that for the first time, Erdogan's ruling party might actually lose its parliament majority. We've got here with us today an expert, Dr. Eytan Cohen Yanarocak.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah, great.
Okay. Who's actually born in Istanbul, so he has a unique perspective on what's happening there. So we're looking forward to be briefed by him and to hear his analysis on the potential of the results and ramifications on Turkey, Israel, and the region. So without any further delay,
Thank you. Good morning. First of all, it's a great pleasure standing here and lecturing to these distinguished journalists. And let's start. So, as you know, on 24th of June, Turkey is going to go for early elections. And these early elections were declared on 18th of April. So if Mr. Erdogan could run his country until November 3rd, 2019, so we should ask the question, why are we going for an early election? So this is the question of the questions, let me say, because as you may know, Mr. Erdogan is not challenged in the parliament, and he's ruling Turkey with his own jurisdictional powers that he also acquired from the state of emergency, and there's a lack of opposition in Turkey. So why is he doing this? So there are some important answers for that. In my opinion, the most important reason is the approaching economic crisis in Turkey. I would like to divert your attention to the dollar and Turkish lira exchange rates. In January 2013, while $1 was equivalent to 1.77 Turkish liras, in January 2016, this became 2.94, and recently, last May, it even came to 4.9 Turkish liras, which means the Turkish lira is losing its value, and this devaluation also turning the Turkish people to more. They are getting more poor, let me say. So, in this regard, I would also like to divert your attention to the government expenditures. There is a huge governmental deficit. In 2017, this came to $47.1 billion. So while we are seeing pharaonic projects like bridges or subway projects, ambitious projects that are touching to the lives of the Turkish people, we are also seeing that the government deficit is growing and growing. But the thing is, since people are getting more services and their life is becoming more quality, let me say, so people are in fact loving Erdogan because, let me say, for instance, I can see from my friends, instead of going by two buses to their work, now there is a subway, and instead of 2 hours, they are only going to their work within 40 minutes, which means that he is touching to the people's lives. So that's the most important thing, and that's how he is maximizing his popularity at home. And however, this devaluation is also influencing in a very bad way to the general Turkish population. For instance, I would like to give you a very concrete example. Most important supporters of Mr. Erdogan are the taxi drivers. And whenever I'm going to Turkey, I'm having chats with the taxi drivers. So they are saying me, instead of, while we were riding 200 kilometers, let's say to 60 Turkish liras, now we are driving the same distance for 80 liras. Of course, Mr. Erdogan is very much aware of this, so he is shrinking, let me say, the tax that the drivers have to pay at the end of the year. But the question is, because of this approaching economic crisis, will this decision of lowering the tax rates will stay as is after the elections? In my opinion, it will not. And the Turkish drivers or Turkish consumers will have to pay even more taxes. And I think this lowering taxes or these tax benefits seem to be very much tactical while we are approaching to the elections. And again, since Turkish foreign policy is an inseparable part of Turkish domestic politics, I would also like to mention that Mr. Erdogan is frequently accusing international markets for intentionally devaluating the Turkish liras. Meaning, if there are some external enemies outside of Turkey, it means that Turkey is doing everything. Turkey is doing everything in a good way, and the external powers are trying to deteriorate Turkish government's situation inside Turkey. And this is the economic sphere. Now let's look to the domestic Turkish politics. One of the most important rivals of Mr. Erdogan is Meral Akşener, the head of the Good Party. The Good Party stemmed from the Nationalist Movement Party, which is considered as a nationalist party that has the potential to steal the supporters from Mr. Erdogan. So, from Erdogan's perspective, Mrs. Akşener might be considered as one of the most bitter rivals, but the surveys are telling us the most important rival of Mr. Erdogan is Muharrem İnce, who was also raised in a traditionalist family but chose to run for the secular party, the Republican People's Party. So in this regard, while Ms. Akşener has the ability to steal more votes from Mr. Erdogan, since she might come to the third place, that means we should concentrate right now not to Mrs. Akşener but rather to Mr. İnce. Who's supposed to be, according to the surveys, will come to the will finish the elections in the second place. Why I'm stressing that? Because if Mr. Erdogan will not be able to get 50.1% in the first elections, that means that Turkey should go to another elections, which is 2 weeks after this Sunday. And it will be a huge headache for Erdogan, because then we might see that also the supporters of Mrs. Akşener, who are considered as rightists, may vote for Muharrem İnce's secular party, which is located on the left side of the political spectrum. So the question is, the common denominator of the opposition is the hatred against Mr. Erdogan, rather ideologically, because otherwise they would not have voted for, let's say, to Muharrem İnce. And as we know from 2014 and from 2016 that the Republican People's Party's voters, which means the secular voters, already did vote for more conservative candidates in order to defeat Mr. Erdogan. But still we have no answer whether these conservative people that are traditionally are voting for the Nationalist Movement Party or for the Good Party will vote for Muharrem İnce's Republican People's Party. So that's the huge question. That Mr. Erdogan is asking himself. So he is very much hoping for a landsliding victory in the first round, which will not lead for the second round. And regarding the parliamentary elections, According to the new system, Mr. Erdogan already got the jurisdictional powers to cancel the parliament. Like he basically can declare the parliament void if he likes, because according to the new Turkish system, the parliament should cooperate with the president. But the thing is, if he is going to declare the parliament void because of the fact that they are not collaborating with him, so he should also declare that there should be new elections. But new elections will not be only for the parliamentary, it will also have to be for the president. But if he will win a very slim victory, like the in the last minute, or a slight, how should I say, a slight victory, right? A small margin. So he may be deterred. He may be deterred to redeclare the elections, and in this case, he may have to live with a critical parliament, which will bring us to a deadlock for the inside of the new system. So he would try to persuade, to show the Turkish people that while the Turkish parliament is not cooperating with him, so the opposition parties are basically causing the deficiency. And I guess if there will be such a case, first of all, Erdogan will try to show the Turkish people that he will try to live with this kind of a parliament, okay? And he will blame constantly the Turkish opposition of deficiency. And after that, we may see another early elections. So the question is whether Mr. Erdogan will win a slim victory with a lower margin, or will win a landslide victory. In my opinion, he will win a slim victory, and he may have to cope with a new challenge of living with a new parliament, that he may think twice before declaring it as void. So, besides that, I would also like to mention another important things, which is the check and balances system inside Turkey. As you may remember, last year Turkey made a new important referendum, and with that referendum, the country turned from the parliamentary system to a presidential system. And of course, you are, I guess, familiar from the US that there are important, significant check and balances system in the US, like the Supreme Court and other important bicameral parliamentary mechanisms. But in Turkey, I would like to emphasize that even if on paper we have such check and balances, I can reassure you that Mr. Erdogan already began to fade this separation of powers of Montesquieu. What I mean, for instance, we have the Constitutional Court in Turkey. According to this new system, Mr. Erdogan has the ability to nominate 13 out of 15 judges, and 2 judges will be sent by the Turkish parliament, and again he has the majority there. So let's assume that the parliament would like to decide on an impeachment. Let us think, we are talking about a system. So with this new parliament, with this new referendum, instead of 550 seats, the parliament now has 600 seats, and there's an important reason for that. The core reason is to make it harder to bring the president for an impeachment. In this case, the Turkish parliament, in order to send Mr. Erdogan, let's say in the future, if there will be such a case, I'm only talking about some scenarios, right? Maybe unlikely, maybe likely, but I want you to understand the system. 400 parliament members should raise their hands in order to bring the impeachment file to the Constitutional Court that the judges are nominated by Mr. Erdogan. So basically, according to this system, it is very much unlikely to defeat Mr. Erdogan according to this system, because it's very unlikely, because his people are already will be in the parliament, and they will be approximately like 45%, 46%. So it is almost impossible to acquire 400 seats in order to make such an act. And besides that, he is also pacifying the parliament. What I mean by that, Mr. Erdogan nowadays he has some jurisdictional powers, and with these jurisdictional powers he can sign statements, and with these statements will be equivalent to the laws. Okay, so if the parliament statement,
equivalent
to the law, a law that is legislated by the parliament, and in this regard, if the parliament would like to cancel this law, they should take it again to the constitutional law, and as I already mentioned, the judges in the constitutional law, in the constitutional court, are already nominated by Mr. Erdogan. So it's almost, we can say that Mr. Erdogan already has the power in the legislation, executive, and also the judiciary. And I would also like to mention about another important issue, the Kurdish vote. The Kurds are located in the southeast Turkey. Most of them. This is their, traditional area. But of course, the Kurds are dispersed in all of Turkey, and the most important Kurdish population center, maybe it's weird, but it is Istanbul. But now let's concentrate on southeast Turkey. With the recent decision, the Turkish government made an important decision, which is instead of letting the Turkish citizens of Kurdish origin voting in their own hometowns, villages, they took all the ballot boxes to the city centers, which means if a Kurdish villager would like to vote, so he has to travel like approximately 5 to 7 kilometers to the city center of his province, and there he should stand in large queues, because taking account not only the people of the center of the province will vote there, also all of the villages that are coming outside of this city center will go there. So in order to cast your vote, you should be very much political conscious, and you have to go, and you have to basically make important changes in your schedule to cast your vote. According to the state, approximately 144,000 people will be affected from this decision, meaning they have to come from the villages to the city centers to vote. And according to the Kurdish party HDP, approximately 279,000 people will be affected from this practice. So I can tell you that this may decrease the voting percentage, the participation for the elections in southeast Turkey, but it may also backfire, because as you may remember, in 2015 the Turkish army launched comprehensive military operations in southeast Turkey, and they destroyed most of the important infrastructure in the southeast Turkey while trying to fight with the PKK. According to the Turkish army, this organization is considered as a terrorist organization, while for some of the people in the region, they are considered as resistance power. So in this regard, we may say that I would also like to mention that because of this affinity with the PKK, the Kurdish party is not identifying itself with the Turkish opposition against Erdogan, because the opposition parties, the Republican People's Party and the Good Party of Meral Akşener, as I mentioned before, they are composed of the Turkish nationalists. They do not like to see this the Kurdish party HDP under their umbrella, because this may frighten the Turkish nationalist votes that may come to the opposition. So, as far as I understand, the Kurdish party already made it very clear that they are going to support the opposition movement without declaring it formally. And Mr. Erdogan is trying to show to his constituency or to his potential constituency that the PKK's, as he's mentioning, the PKK's HDP is trying to defeat him at the ballot box in order to replace him with a moderate, with another candidate, and he wants the Turkish people to understand, if the Kurdish party wants me to be replaced, it means that my policy against the PKK is the right policy, and this is for the Turkish interests. That's why you should vote for me, he's saying. And another important issue is whether there will be a forgery or not. As you may remember, on 30th of March in 2014, there were local elections in Turkey. And in Ankara, there was the candidate of the Republican People's Party. His name was Mansur Yavaş. Mansur Yavaş was affiliated traditionally with the Nationalist Movement Party, but he ran for the Republican People's Party, and then we have witnessed that he lost the elections with a very slim percentage, with a very slight percentage, which means, and then the opposition people accused Justice and Development Party of Mr. Erdogan with forgery. And not only that, last year, in 16th of April 2017, we already saw that there was the referendum, and while Erdogan camp acquired 51.41% yes votes, the opposition acquired 48%, 59.59 votes. The difference, according to the statistics, is almost 1,300,000 people. This is huge, but the main problem with this referendum was, when you're casting your vote, you're putting your vote in an envelope, and that envelope should have a stamp on it that it is an official supervised station of the ballot box, okay? Which means that it will be only opened when it is going to be counted. The problem is, last year we have witnessed, there were many stampless envelopes, and this stampless envelopes rang the alarm bells of the Turkish opposition. They appealed to the Council of the Supreme Council of Elections, but again, as far as I understand, the Supreme, the body, the Supreme Council of Elections, they got an unprecedented decision, and they declared all these stampless envelopes as kosher, as we say in Israel. Like, you understood what I mean, right? By saying kosher, like they declared that they are not void, they are valid. They are valid. So also in these elections, we may see such accusations again. And actually, we have already seen that such accusations already began to pop up. For instance, in the French embassy of Turkey in Paris, there is a guy, a Turkish citizen, who said that when he received the ballot, the paper that he should have stamp on it, he already discovered that there is the stamp, yes stamp on the side of the Justice and of Development Party of Mr. Erdogan. But later, after having this, we have also another important news that this is not true, and like we have different versions. Even if this is not true, there is a very important headache for the whole system, that people are not trusting each other, and this is the most important danger for the Turkish society's well-being, because the fragmentation in the society is rising, and unfortunately it may turn into a violent atmosphere, and unfortunately it's very sad to say, but I'm going to base this argument into I'm going to build this argument onto two important developments. Approximately a week ago, some Justice and Development Party members who are affiliated with Mr. Erdogan were killed by the Kurds in the southeast Turkey. And again, recently, a few days ago, as far as I understand, as a revenge, the representative office of the Kurdish party in Istanbul was attacked by Justice and Development Party supporters, and they were stabbed. So we may see these kind of violent acts. I really hope that they will not going to create a domino effect in all Turkey. Let us talk about the scenarios right now. The first scenario is Mr. Erdogan may win the elections in the first round, but as far as I assume, he will be challenged with a strong parliament. It is very much likely. So it will mean, if not instantly, but I think in the near future we will witness another elections, because the new system will not work, will not function in this way.
Does it mean that AKP cannot get a majority, or AKP?
The thing is, for the first time in the Turkish history, we are going to have two elections at the same time. This is for the presidential elections, and this is for the parliamentary elections. The thing is, the new system is designed that these two entities should function together. Okay, it's not like the U.S. System. Why? Because in U.S., it's like the introduction to political science, at the university. There is the party discipline. In U.S., we have no party discipline, which means if Donald Trump, let me say, will have a new bill, the Democrats may vote for his bill, if this is logical for them, okay? But in the Turkish case, it's like, maybe you're familiar with the Turkish soccer teams, it's like Fenerbahce versus Galatasaray. Even if you're doing a good thing, if this important step is coming from the opposition, even if it's logical for you, you're voting against. Because later you're going to modify it for yourself, and you're going to pass it at the parliament, and you're going to say to your constituency that this is your success, okay? So the whole system and whole political philosophy is very different from the American understanding of democracy. Okay, so there is a party discipline, which means our president is partisan. He is also the president of the Republic of Turkey, but at the same time, he is the head of the Justice and Development Party of his Conservative Party. So in this regard, he's hoping for a full cooperation with his parliament, meaning whatever he is going to say, his members of parliament will raise their hands or will cast a vote against. So in this regard, if Erdogan will win a slim victory, so he may declare his parliament void, because maybe he's not going to have a cooperation with the parliament.
I'm talking about the scenario. So
Yeah.
Erdogan is winning, okay.
Erdogan is winning, but the parliament may be against him. Okay.
No. What do you mean? I mean, like AKP wins, but lost the majority?
The thing is, they lost the majority.
Okay,
They may lose the majority, and if he will lose the majority, so he will be challenged on daily basis by the Turkish parliament. So in order to declare the parliament or the elections result void, he should show an evidence to the Turkish people that because of the opposition, the system is not working. Okay? That he will accuse the Turkish opposition for deficiency. Okay? And we have also another important scenario, which is we may go to second round, and in second round again Erdogan most likely will win, or again the parliament, he will lose his majority most likely. And of course, we have the third and the most groundbreaking scenario that Erdogan may lose the elections. And he may also lose his parliamentary majority. So we may talk about a very revolutionary thing in Turkey. From my perspective, I'm not taking side. From my perspective, according to my understanding in the Turkish street, it is very much unlikely. But you should still having it as an option, since Erdogan's Turkey is still not Mubarak's Egypt. He is not winning the elections with 99% of the votes. So now I'm going to conclude here. As I promised to my colleagues here, I delivered you a half an hour analysis. And now it's your turn. If you have some questions, I would like to get your questions, and we are going to make another half an hour session. And unfortunately, I have to be very sharp. At 11:30, I must finish.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to have some questions, as he said. Please raise your hand if you have a question. Yes, please.
Could you please elaborate on the attitudes of the two main parties, the Republican People's Party?
Which parties?
The one from Erdogan and the one from the Republican
People's Party.
Yes.
Okay.
On the attitude towards Israel.
Okay. Great question.
What do you think will happen?
Okay.
What we will see in the future?
Okay. Since 2010, or even 2009, you may remember that we in Israel, we had the Operation Kastled, and later the most important friction with Mr. Erdogan occurred in January 2009 in the Davos summit, where he openly criticized Israel for the first time unprecedentedly. So since then, we can understand criticizing Israel. He's doing a great job. He's translating this critic into the ballot box as a support, right? This is a huge instrument for him. He's maximizing his popularity. Why? Because there is an important prejudice at the Turkish public that the Jews are running the world, because we, the Jews, are controlling the White House, and if a Turkish leader can scold against Israel and can do some diplomatic sanctions against Israel, it means that our leader is not deterred by these people who are running the world, meaning our state is a very strong state. Okay, so this neo-Ottomanist style of thinking is providing Mr. Erdogan support and public approval. So in this regard, as far as I understand, the opposition made an important observation. And now, in this particular elections, they don't want Mr. Erdogan to eat this tasty slice of this cake alone. So now they are trying to show the Turkish people that they are even tougher than Mr. Erdogan, and Mr. Erdogan is, is light against Israel. Meaning, in the Turkish parliament, for the first time, we have seen the leader of the Republican People's Party, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, with a Palestinian kafia and a scarf, and he called for the cancellation of the normalization agreement at the parliament, and he brought the bill to the parliament, and thanks to the votes of the Justice of Development Party of Mr. Erdogan, we have the normalization deal with Israel. They are trying to show the Turkish people, okay, he's criticizing Israel on a daily basis, but when we are coming to the real time, he's not delivering. Meaning, they are trying, by being more critical against Israel than Erdogan, they are trying to force Mr. Erdogan not to use the Israeli card. It is very ironic, but let me say again, for instance, Muharrem İnce, if I'm not mistaken, like 2 weeks ago, interviewed at CNN Turk, And when he was asked about a new understanding of Turkish foreign policy, he made it clear that he is willing to mend the relations with all countries. And when he was asked if Israel is considered among these countries, he said yes. But again, yesterday, he said something very different, that international arena should isolate Israel. So you may say, so is this a hypocrisy? No, I'm telling you that Mr. Ince has nothing against Israel ideologically, but until the elections he has to adopt a very critical stance against Israel in order not to provide Mr. Erdogan necessary infrastructure for him to use such a verbal attack against Israel to increase his public approval. So also Mrs. Akşener, in my opinion, will adopt the same attitude. It's if someone understands the Turkish politics, you may understand that this is a very wise political tactic. We may not think, we should not take this as a new state policy. But the thing is, the social phenomena in Turkey is showing us that being anti-Israel pays.
Is this a new notion or a rooted notion in Turkey to be anti-Israel?
Actually, in my opinion, it's not a. From my opinion, in my opinion, the Turks were never Zionists. First of all, let us internalize this fact. But in my opinion, with the Turkish soap operas, or with Turkish public culture, or the Turkish social media, even the Turkish school textbooks, I can say you from 2010 on, we are seeing a very anti-Israel trend inside Turkey, and I think we can say that this new trend began to be shaped under the Justice and Development Party, and of course we also should emphasize the importance of the Turkish social media here, because in 1990s we had no such instrument, so people were less affected from daily events. But now, since everyone turned into an amateur journalist, so everyone is making his own points and statements from his Twitter or Facebook account, so everything is different, because now the Turkish decision makers should give more importance to the street. So this whole political game was changed. Another question? You asked, then I'll get your question.
Thank you very much for
Thank
this
you.
very interesting talk. I know a lot more about Turkey now than I knew very little before. But you alluded to one of my two questions already when you talked about rigging votes. Is Erdogan really worried? People like him usually have the tools to rig votes. Is it likely that he would do that?
Please clarify your question. I didn't get your question. Re-ask, please.
You alluded already to Erdogan being able to rig the vote by these unstamped envelopes, etc. Is he likely
to do that
now?
Okay.
And I have another question.
Sure. Look, I don't think that he's going to do that at the city center of Istanbul or Ankara or Izmir, but rather he may try to do that, he may attempt to do that in less populated areas, like in central Anatolia or in Black Sea area, even in eastern Turkey, he may try to do that. The thing is, there are supervisors also are sent by the European Union, but also Turkish supervisors. The thing is, the European Union supervisors are not enjoying the collaboration of the Turkish Supreme Council of Elections Authority, which means that it is an obstacle. And if he's going to do such a thing, or if there will be some rumors about that, this will create a very important challenge for Mr. Erdogan's legitimacy. Meaning now, if we have to take into account something, that Turkish economy and Turkish army's equipments are very much integrated into the Western world. And if you're going to look to the Turkey's exports and imports, you're going to see, for example, the most important partner is Germany. And Germany and Turkey are, criticizing each other on almost daily basis. So the question is, if the Turkish opposition, after the elections, will declare that they are not going to participate this game anymore, and they are going to leave the Turkish parliament because of these accusations, which is, in Turkish, it is called sine-i millet, okay? Then they will threaten Mr. Erdogan's legitimacy, which may also have important results in the international arena. But we should not expect from unprecedented steps from the European countries or from the United States. We should first of all look to the Turkish opposition, how they are going to behave. And let me tell you frankly, if they are going to behave as they behaved in 2014 or as they behaved last year in 2017, that there were accusations of forgery, and they continued this political game by going to the ballot box again and voting, I think nothing will be changed.
My second question is...
Sorry, we're just gonna...
everybody else had to...
No, we're just gonna do first questions for everybody, and then we're gonna allow second questions. Please.
Okay, there's a high possibility that Erdogan can win
Okay.
the presidential election, but AKP might lose.
Right.
You know what? That's the second question.
No,
Okay? Let's be fair. Let's be fair.
everybody will get their turn, don't worry.
So, you talked about...
Walter, please let my finish. We'll finish the first round and then we'll continue, okay?
Okay.
So might lose. So this going to be the twisted. Twist.
You mean Erdogan will be the president,
Yes.
and he
But
will...
what would be the reason for that? If it's that case, what would be the reason behind that? For
The reason behind that?
Yes, for
Okay,
for the
I can...
Turkish nationals, what are they saying by this kind of?
Okay, the thing is, Mr. Erdogan is very much charismatic, right? So people may think that he's experienced and he's a strong leader and he already has his own team and it is functioning, okay? And ideologically he's not challenged. The problem is like economy or some corruption accusations against his government. So also people are calling for a change. I would like to give you an important example. Maybe you heard about a sports team in Turkey called Fenerbahçe. In Fenerbahçe, we had the chairman. His name was Aziz Yıldırım, and he became Fenerbahçe's president when, if I'm not mistaken, when it was 1997. And he was just recently defeated by another important business secular tycoon called Ali Koç. And it was a landslide victory, and people in the social media are talking about a new change, a new face. I would like to remind you that Mr. Erdogan is running the country from 2002, and now we are in 2018. And if he's going to be elected again, so it will be for another 5 years. And after that 5 years, according to this new constitution, because since Turkey turned into a new presidential state, so it is now considered like his first term, okay? Even if he was president according to the old system. So after this 5 years, he may run for another 5 years, and at the end of these 5 years, according to the constitution, he should leave the post. But if the Turkish parliament will insist that he should run for a third time, so he will have the ability to run again. Meaning, Erdogan has the ability to run for 15 years more from now. And after 15 years, as they say in Turkish, Allah Kerim. We're going to go there and then we'll think what we're going to do, if we're going to do another referendum, if we're going to do something else, or maybe we will adopt like the Putin-Medvedev style of governing, like Mr. Erdogan will appoint for himself a close body. That close body will act like Mr. Erdogan's man, like with a how you say ipui koach. Never mind.
Proxy.
Yeah. Okay. Like a proxy, or like a proxy. Okay. Yeah. But okay.
Sorry, you mentioned the devaluation of the
Turkish lira. Yeah.
What's actually driving the economic crisis? I mean, it's a long, sustained boom.
Yeah.
So what's actually causing that?
Okay. Like 4 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, Mr. Erdogan visited London. And the most important purpose of this visit was to have more investments from Britain and from all Europe. The problem is there is a state of emergency in Turkey, and many people, many foreigners are thinking that Turkish judicial system is becoming more arbitrary. And when there are arbitrary acts, we are seeing that the foreign investment is thinking twice before investing in your country. And in this regard, we can also say that Qatari money is coming to Turkey, and this hot money is preventing the collapse of the Turkish economy. So that's another important result why Turkey and Qatar are so much having a honeymoon nowadays, while Turkey is defending Qatar from Saudi Arabia with its own soldiers and with its own military base in Qatar, according to the Turkish press. The Qataris are providing funds to the Turkey so that the Turkish economy can survive. So the thing is, Mr. Erdogan, as you know, also has a very Islamist conservative approach vis-a-vis the interest rate. He believes that the interest rate should be lowered as much as possible. So during his visit in London, he also told that he's going to intervene in the politics of in the decisions of the Turkish Central Bank, which has to be independent, as you know. And when he was asked whether if he is willing to coexist with a critical parliament, so he said he has his own Plan B and Plan C. These vague statements, of course, creating an anxiety among other Western investors, because maybe the Western investors thought that maybe he would say that he will try to seek a coexistence in order to create an efficiency or a public solidarity, like a public peace with the opposition. But he's not talking about these things, and this, of course, creates a skeptical environment, and people are thinking twice whether to vote for that. And another important thing is that there is an important technocrat in Turkey called Mehmet Şimşek, and Mr. Erdogan already declared his new team for the next year. And since Şimşek, who is considered as a successful technocrat when it comes to the Turkish economy, he is not included in the list. So that's another important issue. And also there is another governmental advisor called Yiğit Bulut. Maybe you heard about him. He is more famous with his conspiracy theories. And he's saying that the interest rate lobby, but it's a vague statement without pointing his finger to a certain party. The interest rate lobby and the Freemasons are trying to destabilize the Turkish economy to defeat Mr. Erdogan. So these kind of statements are causing, a mistrust among the Western investors, and we have seen the effect, the bad influence of these interesting statements immediately, and then we have seen that the dollar became from 4.5 Turkish liras, it climbed to 4.9 Turkish liras almost in 24 hours. And then they declared that President Erdogan is not going to intervene in the fiscal policies of the state. And then the central bank acknowledged that they declared about the increase of the interest rate, so that, as they say in Turkey, the temperature of dollar began to decrease. So the thing is, nowadays Mr. Erdogan is using his jurisdictional powers that are derived from the state of emergency. After the elections, if he will remain still as the president of Turkey, so without this state of emergency, he will be able to use the same powers again. So technically, we don't have to declare a state of emergency after the elections, which we may say there will be state of emergency without state of emergency, so that the people in the West may think that there is no state of emergency in Turkey and they can invest whenever they want, because everything will be functional. But in practice, the state of emergency powers are, let's say, became on daily basis and were made kosher with this new system. So if you're gonna see the cancellation of the state of emergency right after the elections, so you should not be surprised, because there will be no need for that. But also take into account that the new system is providing an important instrument for Mr. Erdogan if there will be an important economic depression, or if the violent acts will be seen in whole Turkey. He may redeclare this state of emergency if he likes, without having the consent of the parliament.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Questions? First questions? No, so Walter, please go ahead.
You explained that outside the big cities,
Yeah.
the ballot boxes are placed
Only in southeast and eastern Turkey, not in whole Turkey. Because of-
where they're placed into the administrative centers
Yeah.
for the areas.
Great.
But,
Yeah.
but that was that done in order to make it more difficult for the villages, for the rural areas to vote? And does it mean that the vote in the rural areas, in the villages, would go against Erdogan?
Okay. From government, I will give you two perspectives. Okay. According to Mr. Erdogan's government, they are declaring the government, the provincial administration centers as the point for the ballot box, is because of the threat that is coming from the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK. From their perspective, they will not be able to secure, as they should secure, the ballot boxes in the village, in the rural areas. So that's why they are inviting all the Turkish people to the administrative city centers to cast their votes. Okay,
That's what the government says.
That's what the government says. But when we are looking to the immediate results in the field, not everyone has a car, or we are not talking about New York City metro system, subway system. This is Southeast Turkey, so there is not an efficient public transport system. So people may go there with their carts with a T at the end, meaning horses, or cars, or maybe buses, but this may significantly decrease the voter turnout. Okay, and these people who are going to vote will most likely be affected by Turkish army's military operation against the Kurdish PKK in 2015, and they may punish Mr. Erdogan, but also we may not forget the Kurdish Islamist vote. They are